Picture this: a lone father, a war veteran, walking down a quiet street with his little girl. Out of nowhere, the roar of 20 motorcycles shakes the ground. 20 female bikers, leather jackets gleaming under the sun, surround him like wolves circling their prey. But what happens next isn't about intimidation. Because when their leader's eyes fall on the Marine Corps tattoo inked across his arm, everything changes. This isn't just a story about bikers or veterans. It's about scars, brotherhood, sisterhood, and the unbreakable bond of sacrifice. Stay with me until the end, because what started as a tense standoff ended in tears, hugs, and a reminder of the family we sometimes find in the most unexpected places. The day was warm, the kind that made the asphalt shimmer. Jack Turner, a single father and Marine Corps veteran, walked hand in hand with his 6-year-old daughter, Lily. He was a man who carried invisible weight. His wife had passed away 2 years earlier, leaving him to raise Lily alone. He worked 2 jobs, barely slept, but never let her see him break. As they turned the corner, Jack froze at the sound. A deep rumble of engines, louder, closer. Then, like a thunderstorm descending, 20 motorcycles roared down the street, circling until they formed a ring around Jack and Lily. The riders swung their boots down, helmets gleaming. Every single one of them was a woman, strong, fearless, dressed in leather vests patched with a logo that read Iron Roses. Their leader, a tall woman with braided hair and steel-gray eyes, removed her helmet and stepped forward. "Where you headed, Marine?" she asked, her tone sharp but curious. Jack pulled Lily close. "Just home," he replied cautiously, his hand tightening around his daughter's. He had faced combat zones, but this felt strangely unnerving. 20 strangers, all eyes fixed on him. The leader's gaze dropped to his forearm. There, visible beneath his rolled-up sleeve, was the ink, the unmistakable Marine Corps emblem, weathered by time but still bold. Her eyes widened. She froze. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Jack noticed her expression shift from hardness to something softer, almost broken. She took a step closer, her voice trembling now. Where did you serve?" "Afghanistan. 2nd Battalion. Lost a lot of good men there," Jack said cautiously. Her lips parted, her eyes glistening. Slowly, she pulled off her jacket sleeve, revealing the same tattoo. Beneath it, scarred but proud, was her own emblem. "I was there too," she whispered. "Kandahar. My brother, he never made it home." The silence was thick. Around them, the bikers lowered their heads in respect, their earlier fierceness dissolving. Lily looked up at her father, then at the woman, confused but sensing the gravity of the moment. For the first time in years, Jack didn't feel alone in his struggle. He had found someone who understood. The leader introduced herself as Sarah, president of the Iron Roses Motorcycle Club. She wasn't just some biker running wild, she was a veteran too. Every woman in her club had worn a uniform: Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force. They were sisters forged by the same fires Jack had known. "Why surround me like that?" Jack asked once the tension eased. Sarah gave a half smile. "We ride together. We protect each other. When we saw you walking alone with your daughter, we thought you looked familiar." We were right. Over the next hour, Jack and Sarah shared stories. Of nights in deserts under enemy fire. Of comrades who never came home. Of the heavy silence that follows veterans long after the war ends. But then Sarah looked at Lily, who was twirling nervously by her father's side. "You're raising her alone, aren't you?" she asked softly. Jack nodded, swallowing hard. "Her mom, cancer took her 2 years ago. Since then, it's just been me and her." The biker's eyes softened. They weren't strangers anymore, they were family who understood loss, sacrifice, and survival. Sarah knelt down to Lily's level and said, "Your dad is a hero. Don't ever forget that." That night, Jack expected them to ride off and vanish into the horizon. But they didn't. Instead, Sarah and the Iron Roses showed up at his small home with bags of groceries, school supplies for Lily, even tools to fix the broken porch he hadn't had time to repair. Over the following weeks, the bond grew stronger. The Iron Roses became Lily's honorary aunts. They babysat when Jack worked late. They showed up at her school plays in full biker gear, cheering louder than anyone else. And for the first time since his wife's death, Jack didn't feel like he was drowning. One evening, as the sun set over the town, Jack and Sarah stood side by side, watching Lily laugh with the bikers. Jack turned to her and whispered, "Why me? Why us?" Sarah's eyes misted as she looked at his tattoo again. "Because you remind me of my brother. He didn't make it back. But you did. And we're not going to let another Marine fight alone." Jack couldn't stop the tears this time. He pulled Sarah into a hug, their scars, visible and invisible, binding them in a way only those who have walked through war can understand. In life, we often think family is only by blood. But sometimes, it's forged on battlefields, in struggles, in shared pain, and in the unlikeliest of places. Jack thought he was a lone soldier, carrying the weight of the world for his daughter. But 20 female bikers reminded him and all of us that no veteran, no parent, no human being should carry their burdens alone. Because when we stand together, when we honor the scars of others as much as our own, healing begins. And sometimes, all it takes is a tattoo, a memory, and the courage to stop and say, "You are not alone."